the 10th anniversary for the Cambridge Relay for Life. The first Canadian Cancer Society Relay for Life started in Ottawa back in 1999. The very next year, the first Cambridge Relay for Life took place. That year, 600 people gathered at the Waterloo Police Association facility for the first relay in the region. 35 teams, 85 survivors, 200 volunteers. $150,000 raised. Hardly seems possible, but last year, Cambridge celebrated its 10th anniversary. And over those 10 years, we've raised $2.7 million, and a second relay has been added in Kitchener-Waterloo. Nationally, there are now over 100 relays stretching from Dawson City, the Yukon, to Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Our Relay for Life in Cambridge has been much more than just a fundraiser. It's been our chance to get together with family and friends and celebrate and support our cancer survivors. Remember our loved ones lost to cancer. Fight back in the hope of finding a cure for this awful disease.
We've made it this far. We're fighting back.
It's certainly been a memorable 10 years for the Cambridge Relay for Life. Every step along the way has funded essential cancer research. Every step has supported those battling and living with cancer. And every step has advocated for education, prevention, and a healthier community. There are so many memories from our 10th anniversary event. Started like all the others, facility set up, the arrival of teams, registration, tents going up, more teams arriving, luminaries being organized, and participants having fun.
We're the Sunflower team.
There's always been fantastic sponsor support of Relay, and the 10th anniversary edition was certainly no different. This sponsor involvement can be a donation in kind, advertising, financial donations, or team entries with a business supporting the team. The reasons for having a team at Relay for Life are as varied as the number of teams.
This is my sister, and she had cancer. She was 4 years old when she was diagnosed. And so she's 25 years cancer-free.
Well, I lost both my parents to cancer, and it's just my way of just kind of paying it forward, so to speak.
I relay because 10 years ago my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and within a few months she had passed away, and I found out about Relay for Life and thought it was a great event. I was invited out and have been doing it ever since.
Like every relay, the 10th anniversary edition began with the warm-up, a great way to loosen up physically for survivors and teams, plus you got to interact with each other. Then it was the opening ceremonies, a chance to recognize volunteers and sponsors alike, or hear life stories about how cancer had touched people's lives. A key component of the opening ceremonies and the relay itself was the emotional ceremonial first lap by our survivors. This year, 100 strong. Following that emotional first lap, the survivors went to the survivors' tent for a meal, the perfect chance to compare notes about their journey battling cancer.
But he said, the bad news is you have stage 3 cancer, aggressive cancer. The good news is you could live for 50 years. Okay, and you know what? It's like, is your glass half empty or is your glass half full? And from that day on, I never ever went into a negative mode.
The event rules state that at least one member must be on the track throughout the 12 hours, though for the first few hours of the night, it seemed like everybody was out there. Those that were back at the base camp were busy selling to make more money for the cause or resting. Some shared with us their stories of why they volunteered with the Canadian Cancer Society.
I've been a volunteer with the Canadian Cancer Society for 15 and more years. I got involved originally with Beta Sigma Phi selling daffodils during our April campaign, and subsequently my mother came down with cancer and she unfortunately did not survive, and I've been very committed to volunteering for the Canadian Cancer Society since that time and have continued that involvement to today.
Meanwhile, others enjoyed the music from the main stage, while others headed to the food line for a bite to eat or maybe threw a frisbee. Still others bought a luminary bag with a candle inside. Thousands of those bags would eventually circle the track, and each one would be lit in honor of someone who was battling cancer or in memory of someone who had lost the fight. As the sun set, the number of luminaries around the track grew until 10 p.m., when one of the most emotional events of the entire relay took place, the lighting of those luminaries. The sheer number of luminary bags circling the track was impressive. Each one represented its own unique story. Many teams gathered around the luminaries they'd purchased and talked, thought, remembered, and cried. A quiet time followed for further contemplation, filled with memories, filled with grief for those who've lost that battle, filled with hope for those still battling, and filled with hope for a better future, free of cancer. And the walking continued throughout the night and on through sunrise when a relatively new part of the event kicked in. And I do mean kicked in, the Fight Back ceremony. It rejuvenated team members at the event itself and helped get them into the right frame of mind as they headed back to the real world. This community fighting back against cancer. The final act before Teardown was the annual awards in numerous categories. It recognized those who had taken the fundraising goals to a whole new level. So there you go, the 10th anniversary edition of the Cambridge Relay for Life.
Thank you so much.
But what you've seen is only a small part of the Relay for Life story. You really need to experience it yourself to truly understand what your team could do in 12 hours. 12 hours that will change more than just your life. Relay for Life offers something for everybody, from individual to team participation in the events, to corporate sponsorship or corporate donation in kind. You could also be a volunteer with the Relay for Life committee or a volunteer for the day itself. For further information, contact the Waterloo unit of the Canadian Cancer Society. Relay for Life. Call 519-886-8888.